The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Applies to all of us. Every one of us has ups and downs about trying to look good, or what food do I need to eat, and this will be a very thorough show. And what's interesting about this, frankly, is that we can eat rich food, which fat, for example, good fats, and I'll teach you what those are, and be extremely healthy and look good. Sugar is the booger and the hooker, okay? So what I'll be teaching you is to eat, carbohydrates, which are complex sugars, maybe 50 to 100 grams per day at most, moderate amount of protein, I'll tell you what those are, and about 50 to 60% fat. Yeah, fat, which is calorie dense, but good fats. And that, if you eat this way, you'll be of normal weight and probably live to be 100. What's beautiful about it, it's not that hard to do. We have been fed for the last, we've been fed for information and food for the last 50 years or so, maybe 70 years or so, since the 1950s, that fat is bad. There are bad fats, but sugar is what's really bad, because sugar is what gets converted to fat, triglycerides, for example. And why did this happen? Well, it started sort of with Ancel Keys from Minnesota, a physician, and his information got out. He's a very good speaker. You can catch him on YouTube. He's not alive anymore. And he sold it to a lot of people, including the government. The government came involved. Industry jumped on top of that, especially the processed food industry, which stripped the germs and the fibers from the food. And now all these fast food restaurants, you're eating processed food, and the nation went like this. And along with it came a tremendous amount of illnesses, chronic diseases, type 2 diabetes, which causes 30, 40, 50 illnesses, which could be avoided. That's the beautiful part. And also, there's some people that look perfectly normal, but 20% of them are also diabetic and have these diseases. So blood testing is the bottom line. And we'll speak more about that, what tests to get, for example. So, just look around you, look around. Go to Europe, other countries, it's starting to get that way too. But many nations, they still look pretty thin. But the average American, it's a problem, maybe 70, 80% overweight. Mm-hmm. It is that high. And many have been tested incorrectly, so they don't even know they have diabetes, so they'll be inspired maybe to do something about it. Fat is actually an important part, and cholesterol is an important part of our nutrition. 80% of the cholesterol in the body is made by our own liver. Our liver wouldn't make it if we didn't need it, okay? The external cholesterol that we eat, maybe is 15% of the cholesterol that we have, for example. So it is important in our life. Fat is important in our life, and I'll tell you about that. And so Ancel Keys, the doctor I was talking about from Minnesota, was on the cover of Time magazine, actually, and his studies of the Mediterranean diet in other countries, and he studied 22 countries but published only from 6, and it was incorrect information. And he was a good public speaker, and the government got involved, like the McGovern Commission, 1977 or so, published a report and did a food pyramid, which was incorrect. Okay, and so the dietary guidelines of the U.S. was part of the McGovern Commission, and it told it all wrong. And they are, Ancel Keys and this commission is frankly highly responsible for what's happened to us. People are dying 20 years before their time. They're becoming disabled. If you see somebody overweight, they're diabetic 90% of the time and have all these diseases. But I'm going to teach you today how to eat properly and avoid these, okay? This is in many books, but I'm particularly concentrating on one book, which you might have some interest in reading. Is by Ivory Cummings and Jeffrey Gerber. Dr. Gerber is a family physician. Actually, he has devoted his life to teaching this way, and he's had wonderful success. He hooked up with an Ivory Cummings, a bioengineer, and they saw eye to eye and published this book, Eat Rich and Live Long. I hold it up for you. You can go to Amazon Books and get it. I agree essentially with every word that they have in there. It is well illustrated. It's really a Bible of nutrition. And I have some other books about I'll hold up for you later. But the title says really what I'm coming down to. And what Dr. Gerber points out is that we're getting heavier and heavier and heavier. The majority of people are overweight. If you get a pot belly, you're probably diabetic. Most of the time you don't even know it because they've been running the wrong test on you. They need to run serum insulin tests that catches it 15 years before diagnosis. So for a few generations, we've had tremendous increase in poor health. We now, frankly, have a pandemic of chronic diseases all over the world. And what's particularly bothersome here is this pandemic of viruses all over the world. And you know what the virus feeds on? Sugar. Our gut, that's mainly bacteria, trillions of cells, okay, have their own metabolic system. But viruses do not. So they enter our cells through receptors, and they steal the sugar and fatty acids, which come from sugar, and multiply tremendously, and then leave the cell and spread all over your body and the rest of the world. So people who are unhealthy, who have more sugar in the cell than they should, would be a diabetic, for example. People that are a little bit overweight or greatly overweight, most likely to die from the virus. 92% of the people who died in New York, autopsy showed they were diabetic. 80% Chicago, 80% New Orleans. It's all over the world. Matter of fact, I read something from China, and they said that everyone who died in China had a metabolic problem. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to watch a YouTube show, you may not agree with a lot of the things he says, and I don't, but there's a YouTube 5 minutes long. I encourage you to look at this by Bill Maher, M-A-H-E-R, for 5 minutes. And what he's saying there, look at the whole thing, listen to the whole thing, 5 minutes, watch it once more. Like I said, I don't agree with other things he says in other shows, but I totally agree with him. And what he is saying, the diseases that you have this day and age are more important than you getting the virus, wearing a mask, keeping 6 feet. I totally agree you should do that. All the government recommendations, I agree with them. Distance yourself, wear a mask. But if you have diabetes, that is more important. So you need to get rid of it. It's because your cells are full of sugar. And this virus loves sugar. Okay, enough said on that for the time being. Okay, so because diabetes is so prevalent and weight problems so prevalent, I've declared war on diabetes. So I declare war on these chronic diseases. And a lot of the problem, too, is the processed food industry, which took the germ and the bran off the wheat, for example. Now it's pure sugar, and that's what we're eating, and that gets turned to fat very quickly, and we become very unhealthy. And what's upsetting, the medical schools, industry, government, because of lobbying money, bribery, frankly, it's the money, honey, allowing this to happen. And that is going to change unless somebody attacks the system. And this is what I'm doing because I care about you, okay? And what I'm saying is you can get well pretty quickly, and what I'm recommending really works. So the American Heart Association, the American Diabetic Association, they all make a lot of money from the industry, and they helped promote this epidemic, and they're maybe changing slightly, but not big time. So there are a number of ways to twist the truth, okay? I mean, they'll say, well, fats have more energy in them than sugar. Fats is 9 calories per gram. Sugar, carbohydrate, would be 4 calories per gram. That's for sure, but in the long run, it does not make any difference, okay? And a lot of foods that we eat do have, like meat and eggs and nuts and olives and coconuts, they do have significant fat in them, but the nuts, the olives, the coconuts, it's good fats that are in them. Fats that provide enough energy for you, and you're not eating sugar when you're eating fat, and you'll be healthy, okay? Another problem that's increased a problem with being unhealthy is to eat a lot of vegetable oils, okay? And most of them have been heated, and when they're heated, especially, they form bad fats, and they solidify, and that resulted in margarine, which is very so they're hydrogenated fats, and they are very unhealthy. They were promoted for good health, but it turns out they're so that's an unhealthy fat, okay, a hydrogenated fat. And that's in a lot of oils, so you got to watch the oils, and this is related to essential. We need some fats, remember, from the membranes and hormones and vitamin D. So you do need some fat in your body. Not all fat is bad, okay? I'm trying to distinguish good fats and bad fats, okay? So crucial is, fat is crucial for our health. Our brain is 3 pounds of fat, but they're omega-3 fats. They're good fats, okay? And the omega-6 fats, we need a ratio. Omega-6s are even important because they're on the membrane of every cell in your body. There's some omega-6 fats. But the ratio of eating should be 1-3, 1-2, 1-1. We're eating 30-1. We're eating too much of the bad fats. And I'll tell you about this. And good fats, you know, guacamole and some nuts and some olives, for example, sardines. Fish has good fats in them, especially salmon is full of omega-3 good fats. So remember we spoke about eating the right food to limit our carbohydrates. We need some carbohydrates. But here's a fact I bet you don't know. How much sugar is in your blood? You know, a cupful, no, you know what it is? Your blood system has in it only 1.5 teaspoonful of sugar. Yeah, that's all. That's all. We don't even need sugar to survive because we get all the energy we need from protein and fats. That's a science of it. That's very important to know that, okay? But a lot of the things we're eating are highly processed sugar, flour, soft drinks, candy. That's all processed sugars, and they lead to bad health. We should be eating 50, 60% good fats, maybe sugars 10, 20%. We need some, okay? We need some because we use them for energy. Our body can store sugars as glycogen, okay? The liver, about 100 grams, that's 400 calories. A muscle is about 400, that's times 4, 1,600 calories. So we have about 2,000 calories of glycogen in our body. That's if you run a marathon, you'll be out of glycogen, okay? Normally, if you didn't run anything, you'd be out of it 2 or 3 days. You'll be out of glycogen. So that's a quick energy. Here's a fact I bet you don't know either, because it's interesting. I didn't know it. How much fat, even a thin person, how much fat is in your body? Remember I said 2,000 calories as glycogen, which is sugar to glycogen, made that way in the liver, okay? 40,000 calories, even in a thin person. So you have that available to run your body on. That's the reason a human being can frankly go out without food a month. Easily a month. And this is based on evolution, because in ancient times, we didn't have restaurants and fast food restaurants and markets that we could eat 3 meals a day. That's something new. It isn't until 10,000 years ago we started growing wheat that we were able to schedule our eating a little bit better, okay? And so actually the minimal human requirement for sugar or carbohydrates is how much? Remember I told you about the 1.5 teaspoonful of sugar in our blood? You know what the actual requirement is? Is 0. You don't eat any carbs at all. Isn't that interesting? So Ancel Keys was very wrong when he published these false studies. That was even proven through a study called the PURE study, P-U-R-E study, published August 2017. They studied 135,000 people, okay? And they studied people who were given fat and some low sugar, high sugar. They studied the whole thing, and they come to find out that the sugar was toxic. And also, they studied oils, hydrogenated oils, as being very unhealthy, and that's part of the epidemic also. So insulin, which you've a term referred to a hormone in our body, takes sugar and puts it in the cell for energy. Remember, the short-term energy, we use sugar and glycogen, okay? So insulin is very important. It's the most important hormone in your body, okay? So respect your insulin, okay? So when you get laboratory tests done, and they'll order fasting blood sugar or glucose tolerance test, ask them to get at least a fasting insulin. It's insulin that drives the sugar into the cell. Insulin is elevated in people who are on the path to bad health 10 to 15 years before the blood sugar ever goes up. Wow! We should be running these tests in children and adults. The paper that proved that through autopsies was a gentleman called Joseph Kraft, K-R-A-F-T. You can get his book on Amazon, published 2006, based on autopsies done in the 1970s. If we had followed that, and what he proved, too, it's a beautiful book, and you read it in a night or two, is that all vascular disease, the root cause is elevated serum insulin, which inflames your vasculature, especially your small blood vessels. So the first symptoms of vascular disease are hearing problems, Meniere's disease, next retinal diseases, visual loss, blindness, teeth, black teeth, infected teeth, heart attacks, strokes, liver disease, kidney disease, skin disease, amputations, dislocations, and you're maybe done, okay? Yeah. Renal failure, renal disease, all caused by vascular disease related to insulin and sugar. These diseases could be prevented, okay? And so Kraft's work, look at him on YouTube too. He's 92 years old, and he said, well, when is the country going to change when they finally accept your information? He says, I will be looking down on them before they change. I agree. I personally think he's looking down on me right now because I've been saying this for so long. He's got to know that, hey, this guy really got the message. Hi, Joe. And I hope you get the message. When you get your doctor, get at least a fasting insulin. And if you have any kind of problem, maybe get like a glucose tolerance test, get an insulin tolerance test. Promise me you'll do that, especially children. I tried to change it at the state level. They wouldn't listen. I even gave them Kraft's books. I went back to see that doctor again. He hadn't even read it. So some people are like this, but you got to be open-minded and gather some information, okay? Industry has too much money involved, and they're not going to, it'll be 20 years before they change. And then they'll say, we knew it all along. The information's in many books, not just one book or my opinion, okay? And if a diet regimen does not improve your ability to burn fat, it will fail, okay? If you can't convince your body to burn fat for energy, whatever diet I recommend, it will fail. And the way you get into fat metabolism is to get the carbohydrates and sugar down, and the insulin will go down, and then you need energy, okay? This can be done very quickly. Your blood sugar will drop quickly if you don't eat sugary products, and then the insulin level goes up. Let me tell you, insulin puts the sugar into the cell for energy, but it also, when it goes down, it opens up the fat cell, lets fat out, and you're using that for energy now. Mm-hmm. Goes to the liver, turns into ketones, and now you're in fat metabolism, and you're becoming healthy. So even a slender person, as I mentioned, carries the vast majority of the energy in fat, even if you look thin. Yeah. You can go into fat metabolism a day or two, unless you run a marathon. You could be the same day, okay? So food is information, okay? Matter of fact, food, plants, animals, what we eat, our body, are all based on mathematical formulas produced by nature. If you start eating good food, start eating symmetrical food, you will look like that after a while. I have many PowerPoints I use in my lectures with people who didn't look the greatest and they were not very healthy, and I can show you some absolutely ridiculous pictures. And when they get done, within a year, look like movie stars. It's called biomathematics. The chemicals rearrange their body. Seen it many times. It's absolutely true. Maybe you've seen it in a person here and there. Yeah. It's amazing. So, so there are many hormones involved in nutrition. Okay, insulin, glucagon, leptin, ghrelin. There's a hormone in your gut, GIP, glucose peptide, GLP-1, PY. These are all hormones that have a relationship also to your hypothalamus, which is directing the whole show. Okay, insulin goes up and down, leptin goes up and down. These are all regulating activity inside your body. Depends on the type of food you're eating. Not even the amount to a point counts, it's the amount. Okay, so remember, we now know we want to eat carbohydrates with some fiber, because if there's fiber in the food, that's complex sugars. The body can't break it down. It comes out in the end, and you'll be very healthy. So to eat high fiber, like a carrot, for example, celery, for example, and some vegetables are more healthy than others. They're full of nutrients, and that's another reason for eating them: nutrients, vitamins, phytochemicals. And Dr. Furman gives them Andy scores. Kale would be 1,000, for example. But a lot of things we're eating are highly processed. It's pure sugar. It's flour. Soft drinks. You might as well eat a piece of candy if you use a soft drink. They're full of fructose corn syrup, and they discovered an enzyme you can then use corn and use this enzyme discovered by the Japanese and turn it to fructose corn syrup, and they put it in all the fast foods, and you eat them. You go straight to your liver. Now you get fatty liver, and you're on your way to diabetes. So, but these things are in, these chemicals and toxins are in chips and bread and pasta, and cereals and in donuts. Very interesting. So the question really is, are you a sugar burner or a fat burner? Okay, are you a sugar burner or a fat burner? Okay, or are you a healthy fat burner and a good protein burner? The interesting thing about protein, we need a certain amount of protein. Everybody has a requirement for a certain amount of protein, okay? For our muscles and our nails and keep us strong. Everybody has really a set amount depending on the size, how much exercise you do, for example. But any extra protein you're taking in, like in supplements or eating steak 7 days a week, you know what happens to it? You wouldn't believe this. Because the bodybuilder, I got to get more protein, it turns to sugar. Mm-hmm. Scientifically proven. So all these protein supplements, unless you're not getting any protein at all, maybe you need them. But majority of people go work out, and they're taking these bags full of whey, protein from milk, for example, gets converted to sugar. Mm-hmm. You want to get, they're not just going to get muscle, they're going to get fat. Interesting. Remember, a lot of times the fat hides inside the muscle too. And metabolically, you're very unhealthy. So most Americans are sugar burners. They're sugar burners. They're not fat burners, okay? So when Ancel Keys and the government said to eat whole grains, and they had the new food pyramid, they were just wrong, okay? it downregulates fat burning. Wheat downregulates fat burning and increases post-meal hunger, for example. Insulin spike after eating a sugary product. The insulin level goes up, and then it goes down, and you're hungry again, and you want to eat some more. Okay, sugar doesn't turn the appetite off. Fat does, and protein does to some extent. So, and besides, if you're not eating nutrient-dense food, like foods of color, you can add mushrooms and onions, they're healthy. You're not getting the needed nutrients, vitamins, and peptides. So healthy fats upgrades the fat that you have. Okay, you may have some bad fat on your body. Okay, fat is inflammatory. Fat that's around your organs, the liver, the viscera, the pancreas. That's highly inflammatory fat. Fat just under your skin is no way as inflammatory, nowhere near as dangerous. Okay, and if you're eating some fat for dinner or for lunch, from healthy fats, remember I spoke about fish and guacamole, which I had for breakfast. It decreases your appetite, and you can take advantage of that too. But how do you get into this mode of burning more fat, of burning more fat, for example, and getting away from sugar metabolism, is fasting. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. And I'm going to hold up another book here, Guide to Fasting, because it's very complete. It's very interesting, by Dr. Fung, F-E-N-G, and Jimmy Moore. You can see him on YouTube a lot too. Look at his. I look at one of his every day. He posts something all the time. And he actually is a renal doctor from Toronto. And for him to take an interest in this is just great, because most renal disease, 80% of renal disease, people losing their kidney on dialysis, had diabetes. Many of them undiagnosed. And they go through 5 stages of renal disease before they need a new kidney. And the stages 1 through 3, they measure glomerular GFR, glomerular filtration rate. They're not advising those people that they could stop the progression or even turn it around to some extent. I know all that because I read a book by Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, this thick, very cheap. You can buy it on Amazon. And he was stage 4, ready for dialysis. He didn't want that, so he started eating right, exercised a little bit. He managed to get it back to stage 2, I think. 15 years later, he feels great, looks like a movie star. Biomathematics, remember? And what's the point? I think I've discovered something else here, that the kidney disease people, allowing a lot of people to go to dialysis and kidney transplant when it could be avoided by catching them early, proper blood testing, and teaching them proper nutrition, to eat low carb, moderate protein, 50-60% a good fat type of way of eating. Fasting, frankly, goes back in history thousands of years, okay? It's partly religiously based, and that's great. I mean, we're talking about 1,000 a year or two, when different type of religions had fasting, and nature required fasting hundreds of thousands of years ago because there wasn't any food. You know, they have an animal or a harvest and consume that, and would not be exposed to food again for a few months. So they developed big pot bellies, became big people, and they then would eat from that. And just like the woodchuck living under my house, I notice now he's already becoming like this. Lived there 13 years. I can't kill an animal, so I hug him and say, no, I don't hug this guy, but he's nice to me. And we smiled at each other this morning. And then in the springtime, he's thin again, so he lived off of fat, okay? And animals can do that a better than humans because they need to do it still today, versus us, we have food available. But that you can fast for a month, for a day, a week, or skip a day, or half a day. I recommend what's called intermittent fasting. You don't have to go into this huge time, but if your religion requests that you don't eat for a weekend or a certain day of the week, that's fine. I totally agree with that. But what's easy, something I call intermittent fasting, where you spread out the hours between your meals. That's the easiest. Let me just mention a few different types, and as well described in that book in great detail. 24-hour fasting, for example, we eat one meal. And actually, in Roman times, some of the armies is what they did. They had a 4-hour period which they ate, and the rest of the time, in essence, they were fasting. And besides exercise, the army was extremely healthy. They called it a warrior's fast. Get some allergy. The next way of fasting would be, based on 24 hours, would be like 16-8. I recommend this the highest because you have an 8-hour period during which you can eat 2 meals, 1 meal, 3 meals. It's up to you. But 16 hours you're not eating. Why is that? Well, what happens is that your sugar level will drop, your insulin level will drop, and your fat cells, because the insulin level drop, remember, it opens up the fat cells, and that's fat out. It picks up albumin in the blood, goes to the liver, turn to ketones, and now you're full of energy. Matter of fact, people are more energetic when they eat this way. Sometimes if you're going to do this, it can take adaptation. Like if you're going to run a triathlon, you might need to get adapted to this for a week or two, but there's a lot more energy in fat. Remember I said 40,000 calories of fat in your body versus glycogen, 2,000 calories. So the 16-8 is a good way. I notice when I get up in the mornings, I have some coffee, and but I notice I'm not very hungry. Sometimes I don't eat at all. Then I have a big lunch, which some people can't do because they work or something. You have a big lunch, and not too big a dinner. And what I've then been in the 16-8 way of fasting, and I weigh 137 pounds very steadily, even through this virus thing going on. Eating at home and maybe doing a little less things. I'm not gaining a pound. I think it must be is that I'm in the intermediate fasting. I didn't do this on purpose. Okay. Sometimes I'll eat a good breakfast. Like this morning, a cup of eggs, for example, and I might even have some bacon with it. Remember fats. Remember I said even animal fat. You don't have to be vegetarian or vegan for what I described. Even animal fat, as long as organic, not too many chemicals put on it, can be healthy. And then I eat an early dinner, and I've been really on intermittent fasting. See what works for you. The 16-8, what hours, but if you could give the body a little bit of rest. So snacking all day is a mistake. You're not going to fat metabolism. You're living off of sugar all the time, okay? So intermittent fasting definitely has its value, okay? So there are different ways of eating. You hear about the paleo, which is medium carb, moderate protein, moderate fat. Well, you're not going to get that healthy that way, but it works for some people. Then there's the LCHF, the low carb, moderate protein, high fat. Well, that can work. If you get a problem, you ought to get, at least in diabetes, you ought to get down to 20, 30, 40 grams of carb. Get low for a while. And once you get healthy, you can increase it and see what your weight is. Weigh yourself every day, write it down. And then you hear the word keto a lot. That's the ketones in the liver. Okay? Very low carb, moderate protein, very high fat. Like I said, I don't think you need to go into advanced keto type thing. I say intermittent fasting and the low carb, moderate protein, 56% good fats. Exercise a little bit, take up tap dancing like me or play pickleball like me, and you'll be very healthy. So you don't have to be 100% in any of this, just to be generally in the direction I'm speaking about. So what I'm giving you is the Eat Rich, Live Long prescription, a new life, okay? So I want you to cross the road to fat burning, okay? So get out of the sugar burning mood, okay? If you go into a church and they hand you a bunch of donuts, I point out to the minister, this is not what the Spirit of the universe wanted you to do, okay? Because your body depends what you leave, your body was provided by whatever, God, and you're not respecting it when you're eating donuts right off the bat, which a lot of churches do, and it's a bit upsetting to me. So join Rudy's Army, okay? Remember, I declared war on diabetes. Eliminate refined carbohydrates and sugar from your diet, okay? You're not starting the day with a whole bunch of sugary foods. Before you go to bed, you eat a cup of donuts or a lot of ice cream, okay? Eliminate refined vegetable oils. That's vegetable oils that have been heated too much, where they take the seeds and then take the oil. It's very fat. They're full of omega-6 fats, the bad fats. We need some omega-6 fats because they make the membranes of your cells, but a small amount. We're eating 30-to-1 ratio of 6/3 when we should be 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3 or so. And greatly restrict processed food. If you're eating in fast food restaurants a lot, you're not going to make it. You're going to die young, or become 20 years of disability. All the people get their legs amputated and have unannounced heart attacks and strokes. 70% of Alzheimer's disease dementia is related to people who don't eat right. 70% of Alzheimer's disease is diet related. It's not just a genetic disease, and they don't teach you that, okay? So processed food, remember, food has had the germ and the membranes removed around the 1900s. They invented the machines that did that. I was on the Mississippi River out in Minnesota, I remember, and I saw all these machineries that did that. I mean, it was a marvelous invention because it fed the world a lot more food available, but it made them unhealthy. Remember, diabetes now is all over the world, and it's chronic diseases associated with that. So eat only nutrient-dense food. There's slow-burning carbohydrates, and what you eat affects your trillions of bacteria that are living in your gut, and they determine your health. Your health is determined by your friends living in your gut. Mm-hmm. And what's advantageous or disadvantageous about it is the lifespan of one of those trillions of bacteria, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you can, and that's the reason if you're diabetic and you change the way I spoke about eat, check your blood sugar more frequently. Get one of those monitors they get now to check it frequently, because your blood sugar will dive quickly and you'll get rid of diabetes 1, 2, or 3 months, get rid of 30 diseases, and you'll be healthy and live to be 100. Maybe start tap dancing with me or beat me in pickleball, okay? And so find out what good sources of protein, nutrient-dense sources, okay, high-quality protein. How much protein do we need a day? A normal person is about 0.6 grams per pound, okay? So about 0.6 grams per pound. If you're very athletic and do a bunch of weightlifting and a lot of resistance training, maybe you need to up it a little bit, but eat it from good quality. You can get plenty of protein from plant sources. Yeah, plant sources have protein in them. Nuts have protein in them. So, good fats, guacamole, olives, for example, actually are accompanied by many vitamins and a lot of nutrients. So, fats can be nutrient dense also, and you need them for proper metabolism in your body. Okay, ideally, eat no snacking, no more than 3 meals a day. But I tell you, okay, but really ideally, this intermittent fasting, spreading your meals a little bit, definitely will get you into fat metabolism, and you'll be very healthy. And it can be automatic. You won't miss that third meal, or just have a few nuts or whatever to satisfy your appetite. Okay, and again, be sure you get adequate vitamins and minerals. If you eat this way, actually, you will have plenty of vitamins and minerals. And look at your lifestyle a little bit. Take a walk every day. You don't need to run marathons to be healthy, okay? A good walk a little bit, a little dancing in the basement, even with this COVID thing. Move. That's the important thing. And get enough sleep. Resistance exercise, where you exercise with some weights, burns more calories and is more healthy. And the thing to do, really, if you look at the amount of calories you consume per day, let's look at that for a minute, okay? About 40% of your calorie burned every day, that helps determine your weight, is basic metabolic rate dependent on your size. If you're a big guy, you burn a lot more calories, okay? Versus a little guy, that's true, but don't get big to do that, okay? And then we have the thermic effect of eating the food. Protein chews up more calories than fat. Only 4% of the calories you're eating get burned up, okay? All right, and carbohydrates maybe, but if it has a lot of fiber in it, you can increase it to 20, 30%. High fiber food, you take 1,000 calories in of high fiber food, maybe only 60% ends up in your body. So that varies because it'll pass right through your gut, and out it goes, and you didn't consume those calories. And then we have activity, what I call activity of living. That's 30, 40% of the total calorie burn. And you can handle that very easily if you can, say, increase your activity a little bit by standing up when you're doing the dishes, or by walking the dog, for example, parking your car far away. If you can increase your activity, say 200 calories worth, that's 20 pounds in a year. That makes it easy. Keep that in mind. So keep the basic metabolic rate, the loss of calories from the type of food you're eating, and then your ALL, activity of living, a term I invented. If you can increase that a little bit, you can burn a lot of calories just doing that. Like at work, I used to have a secretary. She was a typist. Every day, she would walk at a noon hour through the whole darn hospital. I hope she didn't have a cold. I took a walk on nature today, so I got a little allergy thing. And she looked very healthy, so her activity of living, was high. So I watched that all the time, very interesting. The fasting thing I would really look into, and because it's a real easy way to get into fat metabolism. Some of these books have in them recipes too, and in the back, and they are very good. I tell you, a very good book to read for recipes too is Dr. Joel Fuhrman, called Quick Fix. It's a cookbook. He has about 20 pages of explanation. He's a very famous guy who teaches nutrient-dense eating, which I totally agree with. And he's in their recipes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a book worth getting. I can normally just open that book up, and to any recipe on there is very healthy for you. I myself consume a lot of mornings too. A smoothie. What's a smoothie? Where you take some vegetables and maybe some nuts. For example, I have kale at the bottom. Remember, that's got a high Andy score. Kale at the bottom, some spinach and some nuts and some fruit, and then put this in this little machine. I have a Vitamix machine, but you can buy cheaper ones than that. And then you drink the thing with a straw. If you're in a hurry going to work, that might be breakfast for you. Okay, yeah. It has so many nutrients that it fulfills your nutrient need, and your appetite will go south. So I think a smoothie is a good thing. I almost have one every day. In addition, I might have an egg on some days, depending on my some protein thing situation. It's also a good snack. If you only drink half or 3/4, if you need a snack at night, I'm not that hot into snacking, but if you did, drink the rest of that smoothie, and you're on your way to weight loss. I think that's a good habit also. So to spread this message across town a little bit, which I'm constantly trying to do. You know, I see people for free at the pharmacy on Fridays, 373 1083, 373 1083, to make an appointment. I'm seeing people there tomorrow for free to get rid of diabetes, and it's 30 diseases, which I have even one patient I'm teaching now to get rid of their kidney disease. And you can go onto YouTube, Rudy Cashman, 500 TV shows at least. If you want just on diabetes, just add the word diabetes, and they will segregate themselves. Also, at the pharmacy, you can get a one-page thing. Sort of looks like this. I'll explain this to you in a minute. It has a barcode at the bottom. It has a barcode. I don't think you can print it off this TV, but it has a barcode right there, for example. That leads to all those TV shows, and also to a Facebook page where I post about 10 minutes worth, in case the 1 hour thing on YouTube bores you. But incidentally, on the YouTube, on the TV, I also have, gluten, dementia, pain, narcotics, addiction, just one thing after another, all 1 hour shows. And you don't have to watch the whole thing, or watch it again tomorrow. So what I'm doing is providing information, okay? So we're getting somewhere. We get the pharmacy, we get the TV, also public access. We have to thank them. We also have 95.7, a radio show once a week. They take the information off these TV shows. And soon I'll be starting a pickleball show. Teaches some fundamentals of pickleball, which I enjoy so much. A good exercise. And then also, I've taken out an advertisement. I mean, this one cost me a little bit of money, not a lot, where I have one whole page in a newspaper called the Ink Spot, run by John Dortch, who's really in his heart trying to do the best for the community of Fort Wayne. And they're sold at gas stations, some restaurants, and it's more in the inner city population, but it's excellent paper. And I took out a one-page ad there, and just looking at this, it says Dr. Rudy's War on Diabetes. Okay, and every 2 weeks it comes out, and I will continue to take the one-page ad, which I took for a year, and I may take it after that. And I put down the websites and the barcode to pass out the information on how to become healthy. I encourage you not to live in darkness and in blindness, because you could easily go to your provider and he's script to the ill, and when in reality you could get rid of these diseases. Yeah, you could get rid of them, and that's what I'm for. Look at the money you would save, the illnesses you avoid. So I want you to do some proper blood testing too. You are what your blood tests show, okay? Remember I spoke about the insulin tolerance test, okay? Then I would get the glomerular filtration rate, GFTR, the kidney test, to see what stage you are. And you're stage 3. Start paying attention, because we can stop it, reverse it, versus you going on to stage 4 or 5, and before you know it, oh, you need dialysis, you need a new kidney. And you think that's without trouble. That's got plenty of blood tests, cost involved, and your lifetime involved, and all that. Remember what I said, the insulin level elevated hits the microvasculature in your body, the hearing, cardiac rhythm, the eyes, the teeth, the kidneys, and the liver. So get properly tested. And the same gentleman I referred to before, Westman and Jimmy Moore, have 2 good books out, Keto Clarity and Cholesterol Clarity, that tells you the proper tests to get, and explains the science of everything. And what they're saying too, a lot of the medicines like statins that they give you for elevated cholesterol, the cholesterol, frankly, is almost irrelevant. It's only the very low cholesterol that has any meaning. That's explained in great detail. You can watch my other shows or my post on Facebook that explains that in more detail. And I think that's probably all we get time for today. So I'm recommending to you a low carbohydrate, moderate protein, 50 to 60% good fat way of eating, a little bit of exercise. You don't have to run marathons. You'll probably live to be 100. If you need to be coached a little bit, and some of us need that, come over to Three Rivers Pharmacy, make an appointment, 373-1083, and I'll see you there for nothing. But I do that because I love you. I care about you. If you think I'm passionate about it, you're absolutely right. See you next time. Bye-bye.